Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the highs, lows, and did that really just happen moment of parenting teens and young adults. We're Carrie and Jessica, parent coaches, mythbusters, and occasional referees in the battle of hormones versus common sense.
If you've ever wondered, is this just happening to me? You're not alone. We're here to help you with real talk, expert advice, and hopefully a few laughs along the way. Need more support? We also offer private coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements because sometimes even parents don't have all the answers.
So continue listening as we tackle this parenting journey together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed. Hi, Carrie.
Hey there. It is just the two of us today.
Yes.
Having a good old chat.
Yep. And I think it's an important one. I feel like we're both kind of in this little gray area, we'll call it. So your kid has their apartment, they've moved out, they've graduated from college, they have their IKEA couch, or in Avery's case she has the at-home couch where all we had to do was screw on the legs, which was really cool. But then Venmos keep showing up. Venmo requests keep coming up. So I think today, it's a great idea to have this conversation about when is it enough? How much do you keep supporting your child? And if just because you have the means, does that mean you should still be paying for everything for your kid? So let's talk about it.
All right, let's hop in. Right. So I have two young adults, 22 and 25. One is still in college. And in our family, we've always talked about that when you're in college and taking classes, that we will pay for your rent and living expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So he also has a job that he works part-time. So he pays for his own food, pays his own credit card bill and gas. But we did buy him a car several years ago, a used car. So that's not his payment. We had already
Right.
paid for it. But our philosophy was while you're in college, we pay for these things.
Okay.
I have one that has graduated from college. In his situation, he is interested in starting his own creative business, which will require an monetary investment.
Okay.
And we gave him
On your part or his?
both.
Okay.
He needed to work, and he did work during college as well, which created his spark for his clothing line that he wants to create. Can I give a shout out to Wheezy Design?
Absolutely. There you go. Plug away.
So we, given that situation, we knew based on what his real passion was, he did not want to go out right away and get the full-time job. So we had a conversation up front about the length of time that he could take to start creating this own business. But he did do things on the side to make connections and make money. So there was a boundary and some time frames set. We are
Okay.
now past that first year, and he is living on his own, yet we will be contributing to part of the living expenses as he continues to navigate the journey. So,
And are there rules, boundaries in place around how long or how much or his
so
contributions and yours?
we initially set out saying that we would do it for a year. Now we are scaling back the monetary investment, but he had a choice. We were offering a monetary amount as an investor into his business that he could take the lump sum,
Oh,
or we would share, and we came up with a reasonable amount that we were willing to pay for his rent. So
okay.
we decided to not take the investment money right now because he is not full in on the business. He is part time in the business and then also doing another job. So he decided to take the shared rent proposal.
Okay.
So again, we're at it for another 1 year, right? So we're kind of a year at a time.
Okay.
So that's what's working for us. I'm not saying that
Oh,
that's the right way. That could be the wrong way, right? It gets into, are we supporting? Are we enabling?
okay. So before we get into that part, my story's not much different. So Avery graduated college in May, and Avery graduated with technical theater emphasis in scenic design and props master. She did find a job, and it's interesting because the theater world works very often in a seasonal capacity.
Mhm.
So her contract is for 10 months. And although they give benefits, which she's covered under hours anyway for another few years, but they give benefits, they give dental, they give vision, which we don't have, which is really nice for her, especially
Can
since she
can
wears
she
contact
cover you
lenses.
guys?
Right. Can we go on hers? Oh,
Can
she's
you have a
fine.
family plan?
I would like to be her dependent now. She is making a little more than minimum wage, but really not a lot of money.
Mhm.
And she found herself a studio apartment not far from work. And she said to us, "This is what I can afford. Can you guys help if I get stuck or whatever?"
Mhm.
And we said, "Yes, sure." And I have to tell you, and I don't know what this is going to come off like, but I had this vision. We would just go on Facebook Marketplace and we just grab some stuff from there to furnish her apartment because, like I said, it's seasonal. Her plan is to be there for her contracts for 10 months, and then her plan is to apply for grad school. So just
Did
so
you
she
have
has
to
some,
sign a 1-year lease, or was it a
it
10-month
was a
lease?
10-month lease.
Okay.
So she was living and working in Boulder for the summer. It was my job to help her out because there was a very short turnaround from her job in Boulder to her next job, to her full-time job. So, Lonnie and I agreed to help move her in and set up her apartment for when she got there. And there was not a big difference between buying something from a thrift store and buying a new love seat. So we furnished her apartment. Okay. We cheaply, very
Yeah.
cheaply, like, but we did. Good, bad, wrong, right, I don't know, but we did. We helped her out there. Um, and I have to say, just a shout out to Avery. She is so appreciative of everything we do for her,
Mhm.
and she truly wants the most minimal amount of help from us. Like, she
Yeah.
really wants to do this on her own. She set up all of her auto pays, she set up her rent, she set everything up.
Yeah.
Um, but it's gonna be really close for her to be able to make her monthly payments and have any money left over. So,
Right.
we
So
told
I
her.
think that, like, is part of our decision-making process as parents, right? When your children, adults, right, are really appreciative for what you're doing to help support them as they launch into full on, adults into their own independence, like not needing any sort of help whatsoever, right? I think it almost makes you want to do what you can or even do
Right,
more
right.
rather than having a child who's very entitled and just expecting it and or living way out of
Their
their
means.
means.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because between you and me and whoever
And everyone else listening.
I I it is not the apartment I would have picked for her. It is not the complex I would have
Right,
picked for her. But what she said to me is, "This is what I can afford and still be able to live on my own." She did not want a roommate, and she was adamant about that.
yeah, yeah,
So, this is what she could afford, and she did it. So,
yeah.
she's doing it. So, let's get back to those questions. Are we enabling? Are we keeping them from living independently? Is there a difference? Is there a difference even? Are they synonymous, like enabling and just trying to assist and help them? Like, is there a difference? Are we keeping
Well,
them from becoming independent?
I mean, there's many ways to do it, right? There's many thought processes here on what's the right move, and I think each family has to decide given their own circumstances, but
Absolutely.
I think supporting is helping them make a budget. Well, and I must say, so I have a friend, I'm just going to intercede here on the budget part. I had a friend whose daughter just graduated from college and asked ChatGPT to just create a budget for her based on what she's making at her job, where she wants to live, and estimate, and it created an
That's
entire
crazy.
budget
It's
for
so
her.
crazy what it can do. Right.
So
And
kudos
did they
to
use
her.
that?
She did. I mean, she's now starting to look
Okay.
for apartments, so now she'll know. But I
That's
was gonna
great.
say, like, supporting is us as parents sitting down with them and going over a budget or looking, but we don't even have to do, I mean, that's the right thing to do in my opinion. You still sit with your child as the parent and talk through it, but
Right.
you don't physically have to create it for them. They should have already be able to know how to do that on their own from classes, but if not, just ask AI and it'll create
That's good.
a
Great. That's
budget.
great to know.
Right? So, rather than the enabling part would be no conversation whatsoever about a budget, and then they're just
Handing them.
spending
Right.
and then asking you, "Oops, right, I now have a bill for $1,200 and I can only afford 900, can you give me the extra?" Right?
Right.
So, I
I
think
think
that's the difference in the support
in
versus
support
enable.
versus enabling, yeah,
Yeah.
and I also think that if you're agreeing to help your child, to help subsidize their beginning of their journey into
Mhm.
adulthood, I think some clear boundaries need to be set, like
Yeah.
what you are willing to pay for, how much exactly you're giving them,
Mhm.
like you said, or is it one lump sum? Are you giving monthly? What's your plan? There needs to be a clear plan, and there also I feel like to avoid maybe even some resentment on the parents' part, like, what is this going towards? Are you giving them are you saying, "I'm putting this in your checking account for rent," but then you see that your child's going out for dinner every night, they're doing DoorDash, they're flying to another city to see their friends who are starting out, and then coming back to you and saying, "Oh, I need more money." Like, what are your boundaries, and what are you willing to give? What's your maximum, and what's their plan for if they exceed that? So I think, like so many things we say, that's when you sit down with your kid and have a conversation about them. I don't think whatever it is, I think the enabling comes in when there's no conversation, there are no
Mhm.
boundaries set. You're just saying, here you go. Here's carte blanche. Here's the credit card. Just put what you need on there. Because
Yep.
that's when I think you get into a sticky situation of not teaching them independence. And like we say, our goal is to raise independent humans, and without the boundaries, the constraints, the conversation, you're teaching them to be dependent on you
Yeah.
as opposed to living an independent life.
And, it also depends, right? There's going to be situations where the job is in a city or a place that living costs are really high,
Right.
but that might be the best place for them for their career
Right.
or, their relationship that they have with their, person that they're dating. So, those are all factors. I don't think that there's just one way and one answer, but I think there, like you said, the conversation, and I think putting time frames on the situation when you will reevaluate what you've been giving or where they're at.
Yeah,
But
I
I
also
think, yeah,
I'm
good.
sorry, go on. I interrupted.
I was just gonna say, I overall think though kids want to be independent
Yeah.
because when you are still giving them money, whatever form it's in, you then have a say still. So when they want to truly be independent and on their own and making all of their
Yep.
decisions without you, the cord has to be cut.
I also think that we might be a minority. We might be we are lucky enough to be able to help our children, and there are parents out there who might have the means and decide that this is their time to be independent. They didn't
Mhm.
have any help, so their child's going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And there are parents that don't have the means, and their child has to figure it out. Um, and that's fine too. Like for so let's say we didn't have the means. Avery would have to either
Have a roommate. Right.
have a roommate there or get a have a supplemental income, whether it's babysitting on the weekends or walking dogs, whatever
Mhm.
it might be. Um,
Yeah. I mean, for her, because she's in a different city, right, it wouldn't be an option to live at home, but for some other families, it
yeah.
might be coming back after college and living at home.
Well,
So you
that's a
can
whole
start.
nother
Right.
scenario.
So you can start to save money
Mhm.
for when you do move out,
Yep.
that you have, the first month, the security deposit, all that if the parents, aren't able to contribute. But that's another way to go about it is live at home, get
Yep.
your first job, and start saving
Yeah.
so that you will then be able to afford to do it all
What
on your own.
what did you do?
I lived at home.
Mhm.
So, but my parents also moved while I was in college.
Right. Okay.
So I didn't have a home to go to in the city and state where I wanted to live.
Okay.
So my parents had moved. I grew up in Illinois in Chicago and they moved to Florida. So when I graduated, my mom, she was happy as could be, please come to Florida. And I
Okay.
really didn't want to, but I had no choice because I did not have a job yet. So I went to Florida, and I interviewed actually Florida and Chicago, and I figure wherever I got the job, I would live. And I got the job in Florida first, but I did stay at home for mm, it was maybe 8 9 months. It was not a complete year
Okay.
because no, I'm lying. That's false. Back that up. I lived at home for about a year and a half
Okay.
and I saved money. I did think that I was moving back to Chicago at one point, so I was really saving. And then I met Ken, my future husband, and he then lived with me in my parents' house because he had his own apartment, which he had been paying for, but he was driving, like, we
Right.
basically passed each other going to work,
Okay.
and so where I was living with my parents was closer to his job, so we knew we were gonna be getting engaged, so he moved in, and this way we could save money, so that was only about 4 months that we did that to
Right,
then
right.
move into our own apartment, but once that
I
happened, I mean, my parents did not provide any support. When I lived in their house, they provided full support. Like, I did not have to pay any rent or
right,
anything. I
okay.
didn't have to pay bills. My mom bought the groceries.
You didn't
No, I had a car at that point already, which actually I purchased I paid off my mom's loan and bought her old car,
Okay.
which was a very fancy it was a Nissan 300Z. I had a really cool
I could totally see you driving that.
car.
I don't know about your mom, but you
Yes. So I was super excited to pay that loan off and have it as my own, but, I just paid my gas
Right.
and but I went on my own health insurance right away at my job.
Okay.
Like, my parents didn't carry me. We're still, our children are on our health insurance. And actually, I found out because Devin is going to be turning 26 this year. And so I was inquiring, he's still going to be a student. And my children, based on the plan we have, can stay on until they're 30. I'm going to keep that to myself, but we're going to
Okay. We have
keep that.
some some
We have
yeah, a lot of don't
of,
tell the kids.
yeah, don't tell the kids. So,
Um, I
what about you? Yes. Did
yeah,
you?
so I moved back home for a little bit. We're living in New York. I got a job teaching relatively quickly, so I was able to save some money, and as soon as I had enough money saved for renting, um, first month, last month, I found myself a studio apartment and I moved out.
Mhm.
And, I don't really remember my parents helping with any rent or bills or anything like that. I was working a full-time job, I was making a decent salary, I had my own health insurance. The only thing it's funny how this stands out, but the only thing I remember them helping me pay for was my first computer. Was like my first laptop they helped me pay for. Um, but other than that, I mean, I had my own car, um, that I was paying for. I think I did it all. What's the biggest difference? Like, is it
I
the rents, is it everything is just more
Yes.
money and the cost of living has gone up so much and salaries have not raised accordingly to meet the cost of living?
I think it's a lot of factors. Yes, cost of living is way more expensive. I mean,
Mhm.
we rented a two-bedroom apartment for $650.
That's
2
crazy.
bedrooms, and we had 2 salaries, right? We were both working.
That's insane.
I know. You can't
I was in a
even.
studio apartment in Forest Hill, Queens, and I was paying $900 a month.
Yeah. So, yes, cost of living, rent is super expensive. Even if they're not in something super luxurious with lots of
Right.
amenities, it
It's
just is
still
expensive.
you can't find a place for less than $1,000 a month.
No. And yes, their salaries they're starting out a little bit higher, but I don't think the difference, equates to them being able to live on their own independently. And I think there's also a lot more things that they have to pay for, right? You have a cell phone bill. We didn't have that.
Right.
You have computers and laptops and
Streaming.
streaming services.
Mm,
There's just a lot more things, and we'd like to say, like, well, are those necessities? But we've all got accustomed to them like they are. Like, our kids grew up with a lot of these things. So it's hard to then say, well, then you don't really need them if you can't afford them.
right.
Because is it really, and that's the other question. How long do the kids stay on
Your
your
s
family cell
your
phone?
cell phone plan?
Right? Does it
That's a good
really
one.
matter unless their job is paying for it?
Right. Mhm.
Is it really that incrementally different that, I guess when they get married and then have 2 people on a plan, right, they'll get their own or have a family, they're not gonna all add on to our plan, but
You know what? Here's the thing. We could talk about this. Every family has to do what's best for them, and there's
Mhm.
also no shame for a parent to say, "I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. Or I can help you with that, but I think it's time that you figure it out on your own." There you every family has to do what's best for them. And if your child is still at home, but you need to have clear discussions about what your expectations are for them at home and also what's going on in your home. Are you still treating them like a teenager and asking them to check in and tell you when they're coming home? And are you respecting their privacy and their boundaries as well? It works both
Mhm.
ways if your child is choosing to stay home and save before they can live independently.
Yeah. I mean, like we continue to talk about in any relationship, in any situation, it just the upfront conversation and boundaries and expectations that are set on both parties
Yes.
between you as parents and your adult children, like the easier it's going to be. And when you're ready to make a change or transition away from whatever your agreement is, right? A conversation about a gradual step down program or the time frame that things may change, and
Right.
don't just rip off the band-aid and say like, that's it. We're not doing this anymore. You're on your own, right?
Right.
Everyone likes to know when what's going to happen and when it's going to happen and that everyone can plan better. That's the best way to maintain your relationship with your adult children is to honor your what you said you would do, but
Right.
at the same time they need to honor what their responsibility is as well. So,
And if we have anyone listening, like with kids who are younger than the age group that we're talking about, I can't stress this enough. I think it is so, so important to start, and we've had guests on who've spoken about this, but to start having money conversations. What does investing look like? What does a savings account look like? How do you pay your credit card bills? Have those conversations before they even graduate high school.
mhm.
Now, I know in Florida, they make um, personal finance, personal financial literacy is a requirement now.
Oh, you
um,
mean as a high school curriculum?
yeah, mhm, it wasn't when our
Perfect.
older kids were there, but it is now, but I cannot stress the importance of that enough for your kids to know how to take care of their money, especially in this day and age when money just seems to be, there's no transaction that you see take place
Mhm.
between exchanging cash for goods or whatnot. Everything's done with a click of their phone or a
Right.
tap of their card. I just for me, I think that's a really important lesson is to and if you can't do it, find someone
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
can talk to your kids about money.
So I'm gonna direct you all to one of our prior episodes with Abby Henderson. She was a financial planner and she does have her own podcast. So we did talk in that episode about teaching your children about finances. So that would be another good one to listen to for more information.
And while we're talking about money, I also think it's important to know what you can afford. What are your finances? Are you able to help your child without putting a strain on your
Mhm.
finances?
Mhm.
And we're going to attach a little quiz maybe, or maybe we'll put it up on our Instagram to see really what you can afford to contribute to your
Mhm.
child's independent journey.
Yep. And remember, if you're there's no right answer, there's no single time to cut off support. But if you are helping them to keep them from falling flat on their face, then maybe that's enabling, right? But if you're helping to provide a cushion so that they can learn and they can learn to do this on their own, then that's support. So that's also going to be in the quiz, like to look at, am I supporting or am I enabling? And I don't think that there's one answer, right? It could be a
Right,
little of both
right.
given the circumstances, but just some little things for you guys to think about when
Yeah.
you're working, with your young adults on the next transition to launching. right? I think we all just want our children to be able to live independently from us.
Yes, Carrie, that is our goal for sure. Thank you for being with us today. We hope you got something out of our conversation. If you have anything else you'd like to add, please drop us a line at info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Be on the lookout for that quiz.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.